what the distance formula looks like? No, that's slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Good memory, though. There's a...
Squared equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus
So,
x, or plus y2 minus y.
Allie's reading us the distance formula. It's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus, and then y2 minus y1 squared. So basically, if I have 2 points, A would be my x1 and my y1. Those are ones. They don't look like ones. And B would be my x2 and my y2. Okay, so you'll have 2 points. You take those 2 points and you plug it into that formula. That's your distance formula. So that's how you figure out, like on a map or on a graph, how far apart are 2 given points. Okay. So what you're going to do with that is literally just take points and plug them into that formula. Like if you can plug them in and then simplify the algebra, that's all you have to do today. So I'm going to give you at least 2, maybe 3, depending on how you feel after the first 2. Just examples of this, how you would do it. And then that'll be it for today's lesson. So this is the second half of the lesson. So this is like example 3 in the book for this first one. Basically what it says is, what is the distance between, that's my B/T, that's between, okay? What's the distance between you, the letter, not you, the person, which is negative 7, 5, and V, which is 4, negative 3. Okay, so you have 2 points, and we want to know how far apart are they? What's the distance? So my biggest piece of advice to you, okay, this is huge, or otherwise people do it wrong, is label what you have. So like I said up here, A is your x1, y1, B is your x2, y2. You need to label an x1, y1 and an x2, y2. So let's say for you, okay, if our negative 7 is our x1, then what number is our y1? 5, 4, or negative 3? Y1. So if negative 7 is x1, y1 would be 5, right? So it has to be that your ones are together, because every point has an x and a y value, right? So you have x1 and y1 together, and then this would have to be x2 and y2, okay? Do that on all of your problems where you label them as x1, y1, and x2, y2, because then when it comes to plugging them in, you don't have to think about it. They're labeled already, okay? Otherwise, a lot of times people plug them in the wrong place. So if we plug this into distance formula, make your big square root symbol, and then we're literally just going to take this formula up top and fill in what we know with these numbers from example 3, okay? So if you look up top, it's x2 minus x1. What is that? What's x2? Positive 4, right? x2 is a positive 4. And then minus a negative 7, okay? And that's another place you need to be a little bit careful. A lot of times people will just say 4 minus 7, but it's 4 minus a negative 7. So just make sure you're putting all your symbols in there. And then it's plus, right? We're adding together in between. What's y2? Negative 3 minus, what's your y1? 5. And we square that. Okay, so at this point, you're done with everything but simplifying what you just set up. So if we're going to simplify that, let me get this little dot out of here so it doesn't confuse us. First thing we're going to do is simplify what's in the parentheses, right? So 4 minus a negative 7. What's minus a negative? What does that become? Plus a positive, right? It becomes positive. So minus a negative is always plus a positive. So you have 4 plus 7, which is 11 squared, plus, what's negative 3 minus, yeah.
So 11 squared is 11 times 11, right?
Yeah, yep. What's negative 3 minus 5? Negative 8. Okay, now here's another place you need to be careful. It's negative 8 squared. Put parentheses around that, because what is negative 8 squared? Is it going to be a positive or a negative? Positive, right? Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. If you plug negative 8 squared into your calculator, it's going to tell you it's a negative 64. You have to put parentheses around it, okay? So be careful with that. All right, so break it down one more level. 11 squared is what? Anyone know that off the top of your head? 11 squared. 121, right? It's 11 times 11. So 11 squared is 121. And then negative 8 squared is a positive 64. Okay? Simplify it one more level. You're going to add those together. 121 plus 64 is the square root of 185. And now your calculator does it for you. Okay? Now you're going to plug it into your calculator and say the distance is approximately, if you plug in the square root of 185, do you all know where the square root button is on your calculator? If you don't, let me know and I can help you find it. So the square root of 185, you get approximately, and we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So to the nearest tenth, that would be 13.6. Okay, so that's your answer. That's what you're trying to get to, but you need to simplify it all these steps along the way. Okay, one more of those, maybe two. We'll see how you feel. Can I switch the page? Are we good? Okay, so let's just write the formula out so it's right here. I would write the formula out at the top of your homework. That'll just make life a whole lot easier for you. Okay, so there's our formula. Let's say for this example, our numbers are B, which is the point negative 30, negative 20, and C, which is negative 15, positive 10. Oops. Okay, so we have 2 points. We want to know the distance between them. What did I say you should always do first? Label them, okay? So we're going to call negative 30 and negative 20 one thing, negative 15 and 10 something else. Do you know, does it matter if I call one x1, y1 and the other x2, y2? Or if I flip that? Like, could negative 30 be x2? It can. I could call negative 30 and negative 20 x2, y2, and then the other one x1, y1. So it doesn't matter which one's 1 and 2. It just matters that your two ones stay together, x1 and y1 stay together, and x2 and y2 stay together. Okay, but you can use either point for that. So if I call negative 30 x1, then I'm going to call negative 20 y1. Okay, be really careful that you don't call it x1, x2. Because a point is an x and a y. So x1, y1. And then C is going to be what? Negative 15 is x what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Negative 15 would be x2. 10 would be y2. Okay, so you start there. Plug it in for me. The square root of what? If we're plugging it into this formula. Negative 15 minus a negative 30 squared plus And then your y2, what's y2? 10 minus your y1, which is a negative 20, and then you square that, okay? Make sure that you don't go x2 minus x1 and then y1 minus y2. You want to go in the same order. Okay, so to simplify this, we have negative 15 plus a positive, right? Minus a negative becomes plus a positive. What's negative 15 plus 30? A positive 15. So that's 15 squared. 10 minus a negative 20 becomes what? 30 squared. Okay, so simplify that. You get, what's 15 squared? What is it? 225, yeah. So 225 plus, what's 30 squared? 900. Okay, so if we simplify that, you get the square root of, we're just going to add those together, so it's 1125. And then you plug that in. The square root of 1125, what is that to the nearest? What is it? Did you square root or square?
33.5.
Yeah, it'd be 33.5. So if you plug in the square root of 1,125 and round that to the nearest tenth, you'd get 33.5. Did you square maybe instead of square rooting? You squared 1125 or square rooted? Yeah, you want to square root it. So do the square root symbol and then 1125. Gotcha. Do you want one more of those? You feel good about that? Or do you think? You good? Okay.